Well, good evening once again. Week two, session two, I guess, discussion. Uh, got a reply to Andrew. I know he was talking about we needed to be more localized in our help and more localized in how we assist, sort of like Esther just becoming more local in who we're trying to affect. And I know that politics is getting thrown around as to how we're doing it. And Andy Stanley this morning, Sunday, had a sermon and talking about election and politics and different ways of dealing with politics with everyone, because politics and the church actually do not mix and shouldn't be discussed that way. I mean, but he was talking about, how you could be Republican and how you could end up as a Democrat or how you could be as a Libertarian. And biblically, there's many ways to support any of those, because he was the one thing that kind of was comical was he was talking about Matthew, who was a publican, which is, short of Republican. So, that kind of Jesus was talking about it. But the one saying that he did say about halfway through the sermon, and I had to write it down so that I could say it or put it to you just so you could exactly know how it was. It says, we can disagree on what's best for people, but we can't disagree that's what's best for people is what's best. I think our problem with all of this is, and it comes to leadership as well when we're trying to, coordinate with people and kind of working with people and directing people is we don't understand what's best for the people. And then once we do figure that out, we're not willing to, in a sense, give up control or give up leadership or give up any kind of power, to anyone else. And I know there's a couple books, and I'm not sure. Actually, I think it's Understanding Leaders by Marshall. Talks about he was a preacher, but yet if he ever come to the point where he found someone who was a better preacher, better speaker, better singer, better evangelist, it was time to step aside and let them take over. And I think that as leaders, that is our most important role, because obviously a leader without followers is no longer a leader. But yet uh, our job as leaders is to train followers to become leaders, and it should just be a giant cycle. It's sort of like the best student or the best teacher is always a great student. And I think that as a leader, that's kind of how we need to get. And I know that this kind of doesn't fit in, but with Andrew, the way he kind of threw our name out there with how we're helping people, it basically being a leader kind of boils down to the way we serve people. And Robert Lupton wrote a book called Toxic Charity, and he's got a second book about charity detox, basically talking about that it can charity can actually become harmful to those we're trying to assist if we don't pay attention to how we're assisting. Leadership can also be that way as well. If we don't pay attention to who it is we're leading and how we're leading, we can actually do more harm than good by creating an atmosphere that people don't want to learn, don't want to listen, and sort of become robotic in their chores in their workday, because the leader basically isn't involved. And in Lupton's book, he basically talks about the oath for compassionate service, and the one that there are a couple of them kind of stick out is strive to empower the poor through employment, lending, and investing, using grants sparingly to reinforce achievements. And at this point, I mean, it's sort of like being a leader. We want to strive to empower the followers that we have to create future leaders, because obviously, as time goes by, in a sense, as basic as it sounds, the life cycle happens. Obviously, leaders will come and leaders will go. And the future of everything that we have, our churches, our businesses, our whatever it is all dependent upon the next great leader. So, in this book, he talks about that, and it says, listen closely to those that you seek to help. And once again, if a good leader isn't willing to listen to those who they are leading, you're never going to know the real struggles or the real issues that may exist within the organization because of that. And obviously, it becomes a power struggle. And I know I see that. I don't see it as much in the employer that I have now. It's more of a loose team that kind of hasn't figured out how to put it all together yet, but we're definitely striving to get there. But the employer that I had before this, it was a power struggle. It was when I told you to do something, I expect results, and doesn't really matter how you got to get there as long as you produce the results that I expect. That's a good way to work. If it's a life and death situation, I guess maybe in the military, some of those guys might have something to say about that. But on the other hand, not listening to those who you lead, like I said, you may miss out on many opportunities to see ways to improve how the production works or how results are produced. But once again, I think the final thing that Lupton talks about in the book is the one that I think sticks to us when we do all of our outreach ministry as well is, above all, do no harm. And I think that sometimes as leaders, we don't think of that. We don't think about the idea that we're doing harm to people, because if we continue to not listen to ideas and not listen to other employees that we're watching, maybe their reasoning or their opportunities, or maybe different methods that they've seen over the course of time, and we're not unwilling to listen to them, we are doing harm to them. We're holding them down. Maybe it is a power struggle. We're trying to keep them from in a sense taking our job. But on the other hand, I think the best leader is one who understands I don't always have the answers. Sometimes someone else has an answer, someone a lot lower than I do, and I just failed to overlook it, or got into a position that I'm now the rookie. A lot of times when we get promoted to positions, we go from the highest level of whatever position we had held, to a, now we're going into the lowest position of the next tier up the ladder. Well, at that point, we become the rookie. We knew our job inside out, upside down, and backwards, but now all of a sudden, this is a completely new ball game for us. We've got a lot of learning to do. Those people that have got us to where we are the people that are going to continue to help us grow. So, once again, Andrew, appreciate the compliment on what it is we're doing. We really do try to stay local and keep it in in our county, and we had some opportunities to go outside the county. We do that as well, but like I said, we want to be leaders of assistance, helping, contribution, show these people that there are people in their neighborhood that do care about them. And like I said, we're out to empower the people, give them back what it is they lost. And the only difference between me and them is one decision, and that's how I try to portray it to all of our team. We're no different than they are. We just one decision away from them. So thanks. Talk to you next week.